friends, I'm Arpit and I'm here with today's analysis. Today is 16th of October and we are going to deal with three very important topics which are in news. The first is India-Canada diplomatic row. This row is not new. Actually, it started last year when the Canadian Prime Minister claimed that Indian agents had been involved in killing a Canadian citizen on Canadian soil, named as Hardeep Singh Nijjar. Coincidentally, Hardeep Singh Nijjar was known to be a Khalistani sympathizer. Khalistani movement was obviously anti-India movement. Is Justin Trudeau doing the right thing? That is a big question. India last year said that investigations should be done and India should be cooperating with those investigations. Now the Canadian government has come out with the results of those investigations and they say that they have ample proof of Indian involvement in the killing of Nijjar. The High Commission has been vacated from Canada and from India as well. This is, I would say, a high point of tension between the two countries as of now. Next is Indo-Pacific Ocean Initiative, IPOI. This is a non-treaty initiative started by India in 2019 alongside the East Asia Summit. It involves to increase involvement with the Southeast Asian countries in the Indo-Pacific on multiple domains. These domains are maritime security, maritime trade, infrastructure development, climate resilience, disaster management, scientific advancements, and such like. We are celebrating 5 years of establishment of IPOI, which has given immense boost to India's ties with the countries in the Indo-Pacific region. And next is Wayanad's new X-band radar. Wayanad was in news a few months ago due to a massive landslide over there, which claimed more than 300 lives. This radar is being installed in Wayanad and will be, very much instrumental in giving early warnings in case of heavy rainfall or any inappropriate climatic event. This radar definitely will help in climate preparedness for India. That is what we need, or that is how we need to understand this. Then we will be dealing with the MCQs based on these three topics, and then we'll be discussing the answers to the MCQs of yesterday. We have not able to pick up the remaining SDGs. There are SDG 16 and 17 remaining due to a lot of topics coming in the news. Don't worry, we will be picking them up tomorrow, day after. This week we'll be winding up with the SDG theme, and next week we will be starting with the next theme. Now, India-Canada diplomatic row. Diplomatic relationship between India and Canada has sharply deteriorated this time. The issue is Hardeep Singh Nijjar's killing. Now, this member of the Indian diaspora, known to be a Khalistani sympathizer, was killed on Canadian soil in June last year, that is 2023. The Canadian government has said that there was involvement of Indian agents in killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar, a Canadian citizen now on Canadian soil. Last year, when this issue was picked up, India reacted sharply. Following this, India also said that proper investigations should be done and India should be made part of those investigations. Unfortunately, India was not made part of those investigations, but now the results or the outcomes of those investigations are here. And these outcomes suggest that there was involvement of Indian agents, including an indirect involvement of the Indian High Commissioner to Canada in the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar. India obviously has refuted these claims. India says that this investigation is impartial. This investigation is non-inclusive because we were not made a party to this investigation. And that is why India rejects this particular outcome of the investigation. In the aftermath of this, India has recalled its diplomats from Canada and has expelled 6 Canadian diplomats from India. This move obviously is considered to be a very drastic move or a very drastic step in diplomatic relations with any country or among any countries. What is going to happen? We don't know. The Canadian foreign minister was heard saying that Canada is considering imposing sanctions on India. Well, if Canada goes for this step, India can also retaliate. A lot of Indian students are studying over there. Around 2.5 lakh Indian students currently are over there. Huge Indian diaspora is there. Their travel to India can be impacted. India does A bit of trade also with Canada, having a trade surplus, that can be impacted. Tourism can be impacted. Investments can be impacted. So multiple domains can be impacted. Well, there is another political angle to this situation. Elections are coming up in Canada. And the current government is a coalition government. Justin Trudeau, which belongs to the Liberal Party, has formed a coalition with a party formed by a Sikh who has again affiliations with the Khalistanis. Is Justin Trudeau doing this to get the support of the Khalistani sympathizers in Canada who are now voters in Canada? That is another angle we need to explore. So all this we will be studying or we will be seeing in this particular topic. Key events and stakeholders in this. Trudeau's allegations, September 2023, that was last year. In a speech to the Canadian Parliament, Trudeau claimed his government was actively pursuing credible allegations of Indian government's involvement in Nisar's murder on Canadian soil. India responded, calling these claims absurd and motivated, and accused Canada of diverting attention from Khalistani terrorists residing over there in Canada. In fact, when Justin Trudeau was visiting India last year in the G20 summit, there were, visible tensions among India and Canada. Hardeep Singh Nijjar. Nijjar was a Canadian citizen and a designated terrorist in India, known for his support of the Khalistan movement, which seeks a separate Sikh state. Khalistan, land of Khalsa. This is that particular entity or that particular land for which the terrorism or militancy in Punjab was prominent in the 1970s and 80s. Well, 1984, with Operation Blue Star, terrorism or militancy in Punjab came down, but the Khalistani movement did not end. The Khalistani sympathizers or the Khalistani supporters, they migrated out of India and kept on running the movement from there. Canada was one of their favored destinations. These people were also involved in bombing an Air India flight in 1985, which killed more than 300 people. They openly claimed responsibility for that. So it was clear that they have been running the movement from there. The movement did not end by Operation Blue Star, but yes, terrorism and militancy did end in Punjab with Operation Blue Star in 1984. So he was killed in June 2023. Hardeep Singh Nijjar, a Khalistani sympathizer, prompting allegations and investigations. Expulsions of diplomats. Following Trudeau's allegations, Canada expelled a top Indian diplomat, prompting India to summon Canadian envoy Cameron McKay and announced the expulsion of a senior Canadian diplomat in response. In total, India has expelled 6 Canadian diplomats. Request for evidence. India has repeatedly sought evidence from Canada to support claims of Indian government involvement in Nijar's death. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar indicated a willingness to investigate if credible evidence was provided. Canada maintains it has shared evidence linking Indian agents to the incident. But that investigation was done by Canada solely. Now it is our part, or it is left to our part to investigate also. The political context of the situation, the current situation, there are upcoming Canadian elections in 2025. Trudeau's handling of the situation appears influenced by the approaching elections, where maintaining support from the Sikh community is crucial for him. Canada has the second largest Sikh population globally, obviously the largest is in India, making about 2% of its population. Jagmeet Singh's influence. Jagmeet Singh is the leader of the New Democratic Party, and this New Democratic Party is in the coalition support of Justin Trudeau's Liberal Party, Canadian Liberal Party. Jagmeet Singh also is viewed as a sympathetic to Khalistani causes. Recently withdrew support from Trudeau's minority government, further complicating the political landscape for him. The political situation in Canada, political landscape in Canada, if I talk about current composition, Liberal Party 154 seats, Conservative Party 119 seats, New Democratic Party 24 seats, Bloc Québécois 32 seats. Now, this is Liberal Party, which is Justin Trudeau's party, New Democratic Party, which is Jagmeet Singh's party. They were earlier in coalition when this step was taken. Now, New Democratic Party has withdrawn its support to Liberal Party, and currently there is a minority government over there in Canada. Justin Trudeau, the current PM of Canada, has formed a coalition government in Canada. One of the supporting parties is the New Democratic Party of Mr. Jagmeet Dhaliwal, said to be a Khalistani sympathizer by the government of India. India-Canada fact sheet. We need to understand it. Canada accounts for just 0.56% of the total FDI in India. So not much of investment is coming from Canada to India. But Canada is home to 5.26% of overseas Indians. So this much Indian diaspora is over there. Every seventh Indian student abroad is Canada. So every seventh Indian student going out of India is going where? Is going to Canada. As simple as that. Canada is the fourth largest source of tourists in India in 2021. This figure is of. Bilateral trade is tiny. It is very less. It is somewhere around $8 billion, and a surplus is with India. Means India is exporting more to Canada as compared to imports from Canada. But Canada, you know, is a land of multiple nations. Lot of foreign nationals are living in Canada, and Canada's foreign policy is influenced by these foreign nationals. How? Why? Let us see. The Russian and Ukrainian immigrants shape Canada's Russia policy. Hong Kong and Taiwan immigrants shape Canada's China policy. Jewish immigrants shape Canada's Israel policy. Sri Lankan immigrants shape Canada's Sri Lanka policy. Afghan immigrants, Canada's Afghan policy. Khalistan immigrants have hijacked Canada's India policy now. So out of 20 lakh Indian diaspora in Canada, 8 lakh are Sikhs, out of which only 1% are pro-Khalistani, controlling 12 to 15 Gurudwaras. And this 1% pro-Khalistani means something around 80,000 Khalistanis are there. They are creating problems between India and Canada as of now. So this needs to settle. And India obviously cannot compromise upon its territorial integrity and sovereignty. Next piece of news, Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative, IPOI. This is an initiative which was, I would say, prompted by India or promoted by India in 2019 on India's proposal. It was announced, and this proposal was on the sidelines of the East Asia Summit in 2019. Now, key features of IPOI. Its primary aim is to promote cooperation for a free and open Indo-Pacific, free from dominance of any country and open for trade for all, reinforcing a rules-based regional order that enhances safety, stability, and development in the maritime domain. This initiative follows the security and growth for all in the region, the Sagar policy of India, making a significant shift in India's engagement in the Indo-Pacific. It is a non-treaty based organization. Treaties are legally binding. So this is a non-treaty based arrangement. IPOI operates as a voluntary non-treaty framework focused on achieving greater cohesion and shared understanding among the participant countries. That is very simple and straightforward. It is kind of an institutional framework. Now the framework comprises of 7 pillars. Maritime security, UK and India are part of it. Maritime ecology, Australia and Thailand are part of it. Maritime resources, France and Indonesia are part of it. Capacity building and resource sharing, Germany is handling it. Disaster risk reduction and management, because this area is prone to disasters due to climate change or global warming, India and Bangladesh are part of it. Science, technology and academic cooperation, Italy and Singapore are part of it. Trade, connectivity and maritime transport, Japan and the United States are part of it. The credibility of IPOI is increasing. Countries in African continent have also expressed their desire to be part of it, because Indo-Pacific actually extends till the eastern coast of Africa. Countries like Egypt have expressed their desires to be part of it. So this is increasing, I would say, the credibility of this is increasing. Achievements and impacts, alignment with global strategies. This is aligned with global strategies. One of the global strategies with respect to Indo-Pacific is establishing open and free Indo-Pacific. This is the strategy adopted by Quad also. So the same strategy is over here. So that is one such, I would say, achievement, because it is aligned with the global strategies. This has facilitated development of maritime partnerships and cooperation at various levels. Then Australia, India, Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative Partnership, AIIPOIP. This partnership focuses on maritime ecology and is an example of bilateral cooperation stemming from IPOI framework. Challenges and relevance. So evolving strategic environment, this is one such challenge in the Indo-Pacific region. This has seen a lot of geopolitical evolution. Countries over here, they are apprehensive of China. They are not, or they are antagonistic to China, but they are overtly dependent upon China when it comes to trade, when it comes to investment. So China's involvement cannot be ignored by these countries, and China's aggressiveness cannot be ignored by these countries. So there is this dynamism with respect to this particular region, and we have to, you know, maneuver through this dynamism very carefully. The Indo-Pacific region has seen geopolitical realignments, increased competition, and increased competition is primarily with China, and various maritime challenges, including piracy and climate-related issues. Oceans are vital to climate health, absorbing substantial solar energy and carbon dioxide. Then, next challenge is need for adaptation. The strategic landscape demands that IPOI's agenda for each pillar be updated to remain relevant and effective. We should be, flexible enough to adapt to the changing situations. Obviously, the situation is very dynamic, and hence adaptability will only be the key for success. So, it is like this. Now, next steps. Vision and agenda development. A collective vision statement should be adopted, which is currently absent, based on multi-stakeholder dialogues. Each pillar's leaders should outline a 5-year plan to guide activities. Second is pillar-specific dialogues. Lead countries should facilitate regular dialogues for each pillar, like East Asia Summit, IORA, to advance agreed agendas. So we need to collaborate with such kind of organizations as well. Inclusivity means whatever actions we are taking under those 7 pillars, they should be impacting the weakest of the weakest in this particular region. If done, then this will be actually successful. Next is Wayanad's new X-band radar. Now, Wayanad was in news a few months ago due to that massive landslide which claimed more than 300 lives. Now, in response to these floods and landslides, government has decided that basically Ministry of Earth Sciences has approved the installation of an X-band radar in the district. This decision aims to enhance early warning systems for landslides and other weather related disasters. So early warning systems is what we will get from these radars. Once we get the early warnings, we can at least save our lives. How do radars work? Radar basically stands for radio detection and ranging. It uses radio waves to measure the distance, speed and characteristics of objects around it. Operation: a transmitter emits radio signals towards an object. The object reflects some of these signals back. So the time taken for those signals to go and come back basically determines the distance of those objects. Radars are very common in military use also, because radars are used to detect the foreign objects which are there in the Indian airspace in case of radar on Indian soil. So this is the basic principle on which the radar operates. There are different types of radars: weather radars, specific application called Doppler radar that assesses the movement and intensity of weather phenomena. Changes in frequency of the radio waves are analyzed to determine the speed and direction of moving objects like clouds which are approaching towards the region. Pulse Doppler radar. This type of radar measures rainfall intensity by emitting signals in pulses and tracking how frequently they are reflected back. And based on that frequency of return or frequency of reflect, it is determined that how intensely it is raining. So these are the types of radars. Now, what is an X-band radar? X-band is nothing but the frequency range. X-band radars operate in the electromagnetic spectrum between 8 to 12 gigahertz with wavelengths around 2 to 4 centimeters microwave range. Resolution and range. The shorter wavelength provides higher resolution images. The short wavelength is basically the distance between two crests or two troughs. This is basically the wavelength. Wavelength is represented by this symbol. Now, the shorter the wavelength, if this wavelength is shorter, higher resolution images will be provided, making the effective in detecting smaller particles like raindrops or soil. However, they have a shorter operational range due to greater attenuation at higher frequencies. So if the wavelength will be reduced of those radio frequencies which are being emitted from the radars, frequency will increase of those waves. And you know, in this scenario, where higher frequencies or shorter wavelength, the waves will not travel to farther distances. These waves will be able to gather high resolution images, but they will not be able to travel to farther distances. That is going to be one such drawback. Application in Wayand, new radar will monitor particle movements such as soil shifts, which is crucial for issuing timely landslide warnings. It will also perform high temporal sampling, enabling to detect changes quickly. Current radar infrastructure in the country. Talking about the historical background, the Indian Meteorological Department IMD has issued radar for weather applications since the 1950s, installing its first X-band radar in 1970. So this is not going to be the first X-band radar in the country. So this should be very clear. Network expansion. India's X-band radar network includes both wind finding and storm detecting radars. There is also a network of S-band radars for long range detection, which will be having wavelengths of higher, which will be emitting waves of higher wavelength and lesser frequency, so that these waves can travel longer distances. Future developments. Ministry of Earth Sciences announced plans to add 56 Doppler radars in the coming years as part of the 2000 crore mission MOSAM aimed at upgrading meteorological infrastructure. Recent initiatives, government has begun procuring and installing additional X-band Doppler radars, particularly for northeastern states and specific regions in Himachal Pradesh. Now, when we are talking about these radars, the one thing which is a major project coming up, that is called as Nisar. This should also be known. Nisar basically stands for NASA ISRO Synthetic Aperture Radar. NASA ISRO Synthetic Aperture Radar. It is a satellite. It is being developed by NASA and ISRO. What it will do, it will utilize radar imaging to create high resolution maps of Earth's land masses. Nisar will be equipped with an L-band radar from NASA and S-band radar from ISRO, designed to monitor and record natural changes on Earth. Launch details. It is expected to launch in 2025 on an ISRO GSLV Mk3 or Mk2 rocket. Sorry. Now the MCQs. Consider the following statements and mark the correct one. Canada has the second highest Sikh population in the world. Out of the total Indian diaspora in Canada, more than 50% are Sikhs. Which of these statements are true? Second, consider the following statements and mark how many of them are correct. Around 5% of India's FDI comes from Canada. India has a trade deficit with Canada. Canada is the fourth largest source of tourists in India. Which statement is, or how many statements are correct? Only one, only two, all, or none. Third, consider the following statements with respect to Indo-Pacific Ocean Initiative and mark the correct one. IPOI is a non-treaty based agreement initiated by India in 2019. IPOI aims to further Sagar policy of India. Which of these statements are correct? Fourth, which of these is not a pillar under IPOI, that is Indo-Pacific Ocean Initiative? Healthcare, maritime security, trade connectivity and maritime transport, and disaster risk reduction. Fifth, very simple. Nisar is a joint project between the space agencies of which two countries? India and Japan, India and Canada, India and Russia, India and USA. Now, the MCQs of yesterday. Consider the following statements and mark the correct one. T-90 Bhishma is a tank procured from Russia by India. Yes, the deal was signed in 2001 and the first batch came in 2003-4 to India. So this statement is correct. The overall process of T-90 Bhishma aims to demonstrate indigenous capabilities. Yes, it was completely indigenous, where we dismantled the entire tank and repaired the damaged parts and reassembled it. So both 1 and 2 are the correct option over here. Second, consider the following statements with respect to T-90 Bhishma and mark the correct one. The tank can attain speeds up to 60 kilometers per hour. Yes, this is the maximum speed it can attain. Tank can operate in marshes and mountains. Yes, it can operate in both these landscapes. The deal to import T-90 series tank from Russia was signed in 2001. In the last slide, I told you this. So all of the above is the correct option for this particular question. Which of these countries is not a founding member of ASEAN? Indonesia is a founding member of ASEAN, Philippines, Thailand. Apart from these three, Singapore and Malaysia were founding members. So 5 founding members were there. And Vietnam was not a founding member. So this is going to be the correct answer for this particular question. Consider the following statements and mark the correct one. India's Look East policy was about integrating with all the ASEAN countries strategically. No, India's Look East policy was about integrating with all the ASEAN countries. Still here, this statement is correct. But it was about cultural integration plus economic integration. India upgraded to Act East policy in 2014 with only ASEAN countries in focus. Till here, the statement is right. But the focus was on ASEAN plus East Asian countries plus Australia and New Zealand. So this statement is also wrong. First statement is also wrong. This is going to be the correct option. That is neither one nor two. And the last question, which of the following is not part of the 10-point plan adopted with respect to ASEAN countries? Climate Resilience Initiative. It is basically part. So this is not going to be the correct, I would say, option. Free Trade Agreement Review. It is also a part. It is also not going to be there. 2024 is ASEAN India Year of Tourism. Actually, it is not 2024. It is 2025. So this is only one of among these three statements which is not part of the 10-point plan. So only three is going to be the correct answer over here. So with this, we have come to an end of today's session. I will be meeting you tomorrow now. Don't worry about the SDGs. I will be covering them probably tomorrow and other topics which are of significance. We'll be dealing with them tomorrow. Till then, you guys very well know what to do. Namaste. Jai Hind.